All right, all right. Welcome to the Real Estate Blog Podcast, where we ask our guests the hard questions by taking a deep dive into how they built their teams, marketing strategies, and systems and processes on how they've built a machine that spits out consistent deals month after month. Well, the value given during the show will help you find and create consistent real estate deals. Today, I have my good friend David on. What's up, my man?
What up, brother? How you doing?
Awesome. Hey, well, tell me, David, how did you get into real estate? What were you doing prior to real estate? And then why the heck did you get in this world of real estate?
Yeah, man. So actually, it's really funny, right? So family had been involved with real estate at one point or another, like dang near everybody around me when I was growing up. Mom owned a title company. My aunt was like a really successful real estate agent. And then I had cousins and family members and like friends that were like mortgage loan officers and mortgage brokers. And that was all right before the crash, right? I lived in South Florida where money was rolling in. It was really cool, right? And then suddenly, you get hit by the asteroid. That was the recession. So a lot of the family members in the mortgage line stopped. My aunt still stayed with the being a real estate agent. And my mom, just shortly after, she didn't make it fully through the entire recession. She was able to hold it down for a few amount of years, but eventually had to close down her own title company because it hit that hard.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So I was around it, but didn't really even think anything about it really at that time. I was a kid, right? Teenager. And then so I went up to UCF over here in Orlando. Got my first job right outside of UCF, and that was with like recruiting and like headhunting. So I used to try recruiting engineers for like government contractors and defensive contractors and stuff like that. And I mean, it was pretty cool. Don't get me wrong. The projects that they were working on were like the things that you kind of hear about in like the espionage movies, right? Like these crazy like projects. But I didn't have a passion for it really at the end. It was really cool to hear, but I didn't have a passion for it. And quite frankly, I was probably like when I was overworking myself, thinking I could get it done. And I was getting more miserable, to be honest.
Really?
And then, I discovered bigger pockets. My mom was always telling me about, hey, you should think about real estate. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. That's whatever. But like, I didn't want to be an agent. So found the bigger pockets world, found out about Tom Kroll and his wholesaling program through Bigger Pockets. And Tom became like a really great friend of mine, not only through the obviously his course, but I did the wholesaling Inc. stuff. And then I was like, you know what? I think I got enough where I can just be able to do this. But what I did, instead of going on my own first, I started off with a brokerage that had some pretty good success here that was primarily focused in the investment world.
Gotcha. So you were working at this 9 to 5 and you said you were just unhappy and decided to get into real estate? Like how did you come up?
Yeah, man.
So how'd you pick up Bigger Pockets? Who is Tom Kroll? And I mean, what was your why to, push that limit to get into real estate? Because obviously the reason why I got you on the show is because you definitely push the limits. And I think we're hiding some things here of what kind of took place. Sometimes we have some pretty hardcore stories, whether it be even just making money or something dramatically happened. I mean, were you just unhappy and that was it?
Yeah, when it comes to the corporate world, I was me and my now wife, but we were just dating at that time. We almost were at the verge of splitting up. I wasn't a fun person to be around. Like I would just want to be a vegetable when I got home. So what I did was I was able to save up 3 months of just expenses. At that time, I didn't really have that much expenses, luckily enough, right? I was smart enough to make sure I wasn't trying to spend all the money I was making right out of college. But so that was just one of those situations. I knew I just had to push it all in, and that's what I did. I had barely had 3 months of expenses, and that's what I did with it. And then Tom Kroll he's now like a real estate coach, but at that time he ran a company called Wholesaling Inc. And it was just a wholesaling course, right? So he would teach you how to be able to get off-market properties. And so that was a good intro to the off-market world. But I stayed a little bit more, like I said, with a brokerage for a bit. But the pains that you're alluding to came just literally early 2022, right?
No,
so
not
that was it.
no. I mean, we'll get to that, but actually not at all because it was such your introduction was very. And I'm not trying to bash you, but I want to dig a little deeper into what was happening at that mind because you just said you would come home, and I think a lot of us have felt like that in our 9 to 5s. We come home, we feel like a vegetable. We don't feel super inspired, and sometimes that will hinder our relationship with our significant other, right?
Absolutely.
And then I know now you're doing fantastic, and I'm sure your significant other is even a lot more attracted to you because you do have this ambition, and you're able to lead your family because you have this like big why now, right?
Hmm.
So you look at so you go into this broker, you find Tom Kroll, you want to get in wholesale. I mean, why did you even decide to get into wholesaling real estate?
Wholesaling still to me is one of the best ways to really get an accelerator in terms of knowledge and cash. It really still is.
Mm,
It's still one of the best ways to be able to do the two. And at that time, being a broke college student, while the rental portfolio was, I could see the long term with wanting that. The short term was barely, dude, I could barely afford 3 months of expenses. So the thought of trying to buy a rental property when I could barely afford, like at that time, me and my girlfriend, now wife, but we could barely afford like a like apartment at that time. So we were just like, all right, this is the time to do it. Luckily enough, she has been the rock, man. She's been able to be the most supportive person I've ever met. Still to this
yeah,
day, more than my family, more than my parents.
that's
But
awesome.
she was, hey, you know what? If there's any time to do it now. And luckily
There
enough,
you
she
go.
was she was awesome enough to bet on me, and yeah, that's ran with it.
Dude, you barely have anything set aside, and I mean, just the transparency.
Yeah,
When I got into this space, I was 100 grand in debt, so you had nothing
yeah,
set
man.
aside. You're on the verge of splitting up with your amazing wife now. Gosh, what did that? Where the hell was your mindset and taking that leap of saying, all right, let me just quit this corporate job and go into real estate full time? Why did you even do that?
There's gotta be a better solution to life.
Hmm.
That was my thought because, and I just posted a video a couple of days ago, and we're this is a blessing nowadays, man. We were just at a conference where we heard about some of the most successful real estate investors, and we're lucky enough to just stay in an awesome place in San Diego to learn from some of the best. It is honestly a blessing, and I made in just one deal here in like the first couple of weeks of 2023 what I made in a salary at that other job. It
That's
was
awesome.
nuts, man. It's nuts, right? Because you think about how much time and effort was put into a full year to just get that salary, and how much one deal can change your life here. And I'm hearing
Hmm.
Tom Cole talk about properties that he only saw for like, he was only talking to a seller for like an hour. And like the full process for him at that time, he had a pretty good system, was like 3 to 4 hours to be able to collect on a house he didn't even see. And I'm like, how is this possible? How is somebody being able to collect that kind of money so quickly?
Right.
Right. But what really, really resonated with me is the impact that you can have on some of these people's lives. Right. It is awesome to chase money in the beginning, but it's not what keeps you in here. Right. That's how you lead to the quickest burnout in wholesaling. You're able to
Right.
make 100, 200, 300,000, but you don't have a really good reason behind it, or you're just chasing paper. Right.
Right.
And that's how you get kind of burned out when the first adversity hits. You're like, all right, well, this was a
Hmm.
fun run, and then you're bounced, you're good.
Right. No, I mean, we all know, man, entrepreneur, wholesaling business, real estate business. I mean, there's just fire after fire after fire. David,
Hmm.
what was your first deal? So you hired Tom to coach you. What was your first deal and what did that look like?
Yeah, so there is an area right in Orlando, close to like where the tourist area is, like near like Disney and like Universal and all that. It's called Tangelo Park, right? So Tangelo Park was getting essentially gentrified because it was kind of close to the tourist area, and there were a bunch of these 1950s, 60s styles block houses. And at that time, I was just putting out bandit signs, man, with the brokerage. That was it, straight up. It was a property that one of the acquisitions people got under contract, and at that time, there was no sophisticated softwares like InvestorLift. There was no
Hmm.
sophisticated softwares. If there was PropStream, it was in its infancy, right? And
Yeah.
batch leads wasn't really a thing yet. So there wasn't a way of virtually pulling a lot of buyers besides what I was doing with cash buyers on the MLS or bandit signs. That was my two ways of getting cash buyers at the time, right? So I went over to where this area of Tangelo Park was, and I just threw out like, I think it was like 25 to 50 signs, right? That's what I would do consistently, day in, day
Oh,
out.
wow.
Yep. And so we got somebody that was around there renovating another property in that area. and he just walked it. I mean, honestly, dude, it was a really crazy proof of concept. He walked it, and he was a little bit of a harder negotiator, but we were still cool with what the price was that he was willing to settle at. And yeah, so we went under contract with him, and honestly, it was one of the easiest closings. It was only 2 or 3 weeks, and it was like, at that time, I'm splitting it with the acquisitions company, and some of it goes to the brokerage, and I think it was only roughly like $2,500. It wasn't like a big paycheck, but it was the proof. Right. It was the proof of like, oh, this can really work, right? So that was a crazy fun one.
Gotcha. And so, what does your team look like now?
Yeah, man, we went through that transformation. The entire team is now virtual. The entire team is virtual. I'm literally about to stop the lease at my building because I'm the only one that goes in there now, right? So from soup to nuts, we have a data manager, virtual. We have our cold calling team, obviously that's virtual. We have lead managers, virtual. They're some of them are in South America. We have one that's been with me for a while, and she's from the Philippines, but I've been able to train her well enough that she's awesome, right? So we have that disposition team, all in South America as well. And then I have a transaction coordinator. And actually, so my mom ended up retiring shortly after. She did like a couple of gigs, but was able to retire comfortably. And she was getting bored out of her mind. And now she's become my transaction coordinator. So it's been pretty awesome. It's been pretty awesome.
David, I totally skipped over a question, and what that is we went over your first deal, but you know how you go through that transition from first deal to doing a deal here and there to crap, am I going to be able to pay the mortgage this month? Yeah. How did you make that transition from your first deal to doing consistent real estate deals month after month?
Yeah, man, that's the $1 million question for a lot of people, right? It's understanding your KPIs. I did not know what a KPI was for quite some time, right? But then you start understanding track records, right? KPI, key performance indicator. How many leads do I have to talk to? How many people do I have to talk to? How many appointments do I have to set to get to a contract, right? That's how you do it, right? How does one contract happen? And then you reverse engineer it. And that's when I started like having the light bulb. Because at that time, it was just hustle. Like I said, I was putting out bandit signs, right? But I talked to some of the more successful people within that brokerage that were doing really well. And I'd ask them, how many signs are you putting out? And then I would just simply just at least match it or get close to it every single day. I get in there. I would just like block out 1 to 2 hours, just make my bandit signs, go out for 2 to 3 hours, put them out, wait for the calls, and then put out another wave after.
Would your wife be helping you make the bandit signs?
On the weekends she did. Yeah, she did. That was dedication, man. That was real hustle, right? So my wife would come out with me sometimes 8 or 9 a.m. If we had to go out like 30 minutes, 45 minutes out, depending on where the properties were. She was ride or die. She is ride or die. So it's awesome. It is awesome that we have those. We see those bandit signs every once in a while as we're driving, and she'll bring up, "Hey, remember when we used to do that?" I'm like, yeah, believe me, I remember it.
So you're doing the bandit signs. I'm guessing that helped you create a consistent deal flow, and then you built a team. And then, what happened? And also, I'd like to get into kind of what happened this past year as well with the huge struggle.
Yeah, man, absolutely. So at that time, I was really good I was becoming one of the best people consistently with dispositions, right? But I started really realizing I liked a lot of acquisitions. That's where I felt like I was hearing the people that were doing the acquisitions. I would see how they'd run numbers. I'm like, I could definitely do that. And I like controlling the deal, right? I've always been a little bit more. I like to control the deal a little bit more. So I started doing really well at the acquisition side then shortly after. But then at the end of the day, I'm splitting my entire check. Like either if I got to sell it, cool. But more times than not, the people that were already pretty established would sell my deals. So I'm getting 25% of a deal. I'm doing my own marketing, putting out the bandit sign. Like, I'm doing a lot for only 25%, and then went out on my own. And I was like, you know what? I can run it full service now myself. And that was when Tom's course really came into effect. So that was really good.
Gotcha. So
last year, oh, go ahead. My bad, man.
No, you're good. So you decided to kind of get at the, starting to wear the hats. You went on your own. You took
Hmm.
everything that Tom taught you, and then you partnered with somebody, I'm guessing, right?
Yeah, sure did. So I was starting to get some pretty good success, man. But I realized I was more of that visionary role. A visionary role is somebody who has the ideas, has maybe the energy, brings the culture, brings the leadership, but they're not the greatest implementer. They're not good at implementing the software. They're not good at being able to put in any kind of automations or systems or
Mm-hmm.
standard operating procedures, SOPs. Like, you don't want your visionary doing that. You're gonna get bogged down, right?
Yeah.
So I found out somebody through our local like RIA here in Orlando that was very operations oriented. And so we were being able to get some pretty good success. And then we decided to go PPC, right? So that was 2021. We went PPC. We went very aggressive with it very quickly. And that was one of the number one mistakes that we had. We went very aggressive very quickly on high ad spend with not understanding probably the learning curve behind it,
Were you doing it
right?
yourself?
We were in-house with it. Yep.
Okay.
So
Wow.
so my partner was the one running it. Unfortunately, he ran it too high and we weren't able to really get enough deals going, right? At
Mm.
that time, W-2 employees, right? So people that we were paying salary, they were also getting commissions. Then we just cranked up the PPC. And from there, we were able to get the highest revenue, but we also had the highest cost, right? Not
Right.
a good way to sustain a really good profitable business.
Right.
So that's end of 2021. And then my wife's grandmother passes away, like really like 8 p.m. December 31st kind of
No,
thing.
that's
So like
rough.
right
Yeah.
as the ball is dropping kind of stuff, right? Come back from the funeral and my partner is he's stressed out of his mind. He can't take any more. And he decides that he's going to put in his resignation, right?
What was your overhead at that time?
Overhead like like price or the amount of
Well,
people? What do you mean?
because I know that's kind of what you said, what you were stressed about, right? You
Right.
had this large overhead and income was coming in, but it was like almost breaking even, right?
Right.
What did that overhead look like?
Yeah, man. So the PPC was roughly 30,000 a month
Wow.
alone. Yeah, so
Okay.
that was alone. Like we didn't have the PPC in-house sales agent process down right yet, right?
Right.
So
So
we
even if you
were
got the
going.
leads, you couldn't like fulfill on them, and yeah.
They were at like 20 to 25 leads to contract, and we had to be close to 10 to 12, right? So we
Right.
were not efficient with it. And then we had, of course, W-2 for me, my partner, and then our head of dispositions and head of acquisition. So our overall cap was I think, just about $50,000, give or take, every month.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. So we were at that, but the problem was is that it was not leading, or if we were taking down some properties at that time too. And that was also maybe misconception number two, is that it was a great
Hmm.
time to do wholetailing, right? Wholesale, we bought it at like 75%. And at that time, we were doing a lot of business with Open Door, right? But
Oh,
Open Door
nice.
required us to buy it. They were not cool with assigning it. They were not cool with it. Wasn't really that popular strategy yet, but novating at that time. It was that you had to buy it, you had to wait, and then you had to sell it to them. So there would be like 2 to 3 month time frames on these wholesales, right? So we would hit them, and we hit them hard, man. It was great. It was great times. But
Nice.
there wasn't a lot of the in between in that. There wasn't as consistency. It was 10,
Gotcha.
12, 13K pops. But like I told you, the operations were at 50,000. So that would led to the glass shattering right there in early 2022, right?
Okay.
So what we do there, right? I'm like looking around. If I had to look around, I'm like, oh my God, scattered everywhere, right? The business is scattered because at that time it was not a big team. So we immediately had to let go of everybody. I had to cut everything, man. I had to put the essential the Florida House Buyers overall company on like life support, man. Right. One of the other things, this is amazing thing for your audience to learn. get with your CPAs often. Get with your CPAs often. It was great to be able to learn that lesson in last year, but I wish I learned that lesson in 2021 when I was just being hyper focused, spend. We're going to make the money back, right?
Right.
So cut everything, sat down with my CPA, and we just went through what is producing revenue, what is replaceable, and what can we cut. It's called the streetlight challenge, right? So anybody that you feel like you have a little bit of a fatty business, apply that. If something is a red light, that means you got to cut it. If it's a yellow light, it could be replaceable for something maybe of that could be a little bit cheaper, or you're on the border of maybe just eliminating it. And then green, of course, it's revenue producing, right? So I just went all in on all my green activities. I restructured the entire company to be this virtual model, and it's been great.
Oh, sorry to cut you off there, David. Are you experiencing a little lagging?
I see it on your end. You're fuzzy on my end.
Okay, yeah, same thing. So I'm looking at my Wi-Fi here. Everything's looking good. I got all bars. How's your Wi-Fi looking?
So I should be pretty good. Yeah, everything's looking good with the Wi-Fi.
All right, no worries. I just switched it to we'll edit all this out, but I just switched it to low definition. All right. Yeah. So sorry about that, David.
Yeah. All I was just doing is going through how we went from in-house W-2 to a virtual team, and we run our company. It was in that kind of adversity, you get an opportunity to really reflect, right? Like that was reflection time. And we were at that when we were at that conference last just 2 weeks ago. They asked, "What do you want?" Right? That was one of those weird questions I was kept on bringing. That was brought up a couple of times, and luckily enough, I had that question to myself like over a year ago. What do I want from a wholesaling company? And I really made sure that with being able to do something like cold calling, I am now adding in families that I want to acquire, right? So that is when I started making my cold calling, not only being able to attract the single family residential properties, but now I'm also now pulling in the multifamily leads too that are very consistent for me.
Yeah, I know you did speak about that. That's something you're definitely now focused on, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So you have this business last year. You're kind of struggling on really paying those bills. You decided partnership split. Long story short, right?
Yeah.
Everything's kind of scattered. How did you collect the pieces? Because we saw a lot of people, and we talked about this at our mastermind. We saw a lot of people last year, especially between mid to end of last year, just go out of business. And it seems like that's something that we almost experienced. But you were able to kind of collect yourself and get up and get back going. What did that look like? What was the path to kind of survive that correction?
Yeah, man. I would love to be able to say that was something on my own, and I could not take that credit at all. It is being able to have mentors, coaches, really close friends that are other very successful real estate investors, and ask them. It's weird to be at a point of vulnerability like that. Like, what should I do? Because when you start running something pretty good, like you can start getting a little bit of an inflated ego. Of course, it gets to your head sometimes, right?
100%.
But I reached out to like a lot of the people I know. Luckily enough, I've been able to get a really good network of people, whether it's here local or even nationwide. And a lot of people gave me some pretty good advice. People that I trust a lot, and I was able to implement a lot of what they put into their opinions of, and I put a lot of that action into play. And that what's led to when that pivot happened, I was fine. I got hurt a bit. Don't get me wrong. Like I lost 9 contracts in August.
What was the things that you had to? What were the things that they put in place?
Well, like I told you, the first and foremost, getting on the CPA port, man.
Okay.
That part, that was one of the quickest things that could save a company or burn a company, is understanding your true expenses, your true profit, and being able to understand what are you paying for that is unnecessary. Because
Okay.
you get these subscriptions. We're in a day and age, dude. These subscriptions just roll in. $20
Right.
here, $30 here, $20 here, $30 there. And honestly, the other part was understanding how to successfully scale marketing, right? That was also one of the really big ahas is, okay, we're doing really well with conversions. If we increase it, are we going to still really do well with conversions? Okay, so
Right.
let's expand it out. Let's see how we do with conversions. Assess that. Okay, we did really well. Expand it out again. Okay, that was now, we pushed it too far. If we go this far, we need to hire, like I did, another lead manager. So I added another lead manager to the team. How are we now doing, right? So assessing it week in, week out, being able to see those KPIs. The KPIs is what can successfully save a company or ruin it if you are not looking at them.
No, 100%. Let me ask you this. What kind of advice, now that you've gotten through this, you have, we talked about it in the beginning, what your team looks like now. So you definitely got an up and
Yeah.
running team again right now. You put those things, you really cut those costs, figured out your why and why you wanted to do wholesaling. What
Right.
advice would you give someone today to do from getting one deal here and there to consistent deal flow?
Yeah, man. Well, that's why I became a coach, right? I was starting to have people ask, like, how did you do that? How did you literally come from like ashes to now like being able to do it again? And it's I would love to be able to say it's something complicated, man. It's just sheer focus and concentration. That's it. What I've realized being in this industry nowadays, Aaron, it doesn't really matter what marketing channel. How consistent are you at it? I know people that run seven-figure businesses from every single marketing medium I know.
Right.
Direct mail, radio, TV, cold calling, PPC, texting. I know seven-figure companies that do all of them. But what I realize is why they're successful with it is the consistency and focus that they have at it. So
Right.
I would tell somebody, if they're low on budget, find something that's low, go do some driving for dollars, go every single day, go find 10, 15 properties, call on those 10 to 15 properties. You're going to get deals done, right? That is going to happen. So it's just about the amount of consistency and concentration that you have on what you're doing.
David, what kind of marketing are you guys doing to hit that seven figures?
Yeah, so we primarily stick with the cold calling. That has been, like I said, that's where I got my KPIs dialed in. I know how to successfully be able to expand it, shrink it, whatever I want to do with it. So cold calling has been one of our number one resources. And I don't really delve into too many different marketing segments anymore. I
Okay.
just go a little bit deeper with cold calling.
How many cold callers do you have, and what is your guys' lead to contract right now in cold calling?
Yeah, we are at 8 cold callers, and
Okay.
we're at roughly 37.
That's not bad.
It's not too bad. It was actually when we were in
It's
San
actually really good.
Diego. Yeah, we were at 33, and then I got sick last week, and I was down with the flu. I'm still the only thing that's like I'm still one in there. I am the closer of the deal of
Okay.
the properties. So we did jump up because I had the flu last week to
Bummer.
37. Yeah, that kicked my butt, but got it right back up. We got already one property under contract this week, and then hopefully at 5:30 we'll be having that happen again.
What markets are you in? Now you say you have 8 callers. What kind of list are you pulling to kind of get that lead to conversion rate?
Yeah, man. So the lead to conversion rate really started working with just higher equity ones, whether it's absentee or just people that live in the owner occupied properties. It really hasn't varied from that. It's really on the tactics that we use within these leads. That's
Okay.
what's led to the conversions, right? So you asked me earlier about like pivoting, right? And I've been able to go in and do like just 3 offers, triple offer approach on being able, when somebody has somewhat motivation, how am I making sure they are not going to somebody else?
Hold on. This is what I want. This is why we got you on here, because I want everybody to listen up to this, because this is something we implement in our business as well, without even like really talking to David. The 3 offer method. Thank you, David, for bringing this up. Tell us about the 3 offer method, and then tell us about your coaching program.
Yeah, man. So I mean, I've been able to do this on and off for a while, but what I really realized is right as you were mentioning as a pivot. So the triple offer approach that we have is being able to make sure when we are talking with the seller, what is their motivations? What kind of timelines are they working on? And how can I now create 3 separate offers? One making like say a cash wholesale one. Then we have maybe like depends on the equities that they're dealing with at the end of the day. Then you have a second one. It's called a steering wheel offer, right? That could be a novation style agreement, or maybe a seller financing with where we're putting a lesser of a down payment, but we're adding interest into it. And then we have a third one. Our third offer is the one that obviously I always want them to be able to accept. And that is going to be as close to principal only or principal only seller finance, right? So we stage all 3 of these offers, Aaron, at 3 separate price points. And that is how we are making sure that they do not go to somebody else, because we are covering a wide variety and just see what works for them.
One-stop shop.
Exactly.
No, that's awesome, man. I know that was something really cool when you spoke at our mastermind up, and you brought that up, and I thought that was the coolest thing. And you're right. That's how we were able to do a lot more conversions, is when you give them that multiple offer strategy and give them almost like a presentation. We have that in our script as a presentation. And then you say, hey, Mr. Seller, what direction do you think would be your best fit, right? Let them pick. Because then they don't feel like super pressured. I want to dial back a little bit, though, back to the cold calling. Are you training these cold callers yourself, or are they you hire somebody? What does that look like?
Yeah, we use a third party. I do not do the training for them. I use they're called Call Geeks. They do well for me. They're very consistent. They're very communicative. I think their cold callers are from Egypt, if I recall, and they're pretty good. They're pretty good. I've listened to plenty of their talk time, and they sound good, man. They're solid. They're very solid.
How much are they an hour right now?
I think they're about $6 to $7 an hour.
Okay, so that's not bad. You got them going each 8 hours a day, 5 days a week.
Oh yeah.
Gotcha. Do you have to put it like, and this is just me personally, because I was super big into cold calling and text messaging last year, and we really pivoted. And you're absolutely right. If you focus heavily on a specific channel, you'll succeed at it. But yeah, I had like 20 callers at one time, sent out like 30,000 text messages, whatever, right? And we were doing a little bit of direct mail. Well, actually, we went on the opposite side of the spectrum, and now we're focusing heavy on direct mail and heavy on PPC, really focusing on those inbounds. But we do have a little bit of calling and a little bit of text messaging going out. We're hitting those niche lists with those. But we will later on in the year, when we start hiring more acquisition guys, give more into calling. We'll probably get like 4 to 5 callers, whatever. But I think Call Geeks would be a good one to check out. So that's why I wanted to pick your brain a little bit on that.
Yeah, man. And what I like to always tell everybody is everybody has a separate style that they want, right? I had that reflection time last year. What did I want from it? I tell you still to this day, if you want to do PPC, you're going to be absolutely dominant with single family residential.
Right. Yeah, we were talking about that. Yeah.
It is phenomenal. It is the best one to be able to go after single family residential. It is, no doubt. But what I want to be able to do, there's not a whole bunch of people, because you have a separate avatar or an ideal seller when it comes to people that have a lot of land or a lot of units. These aren't people that are typing in, I want to sell my 20 units. They don't do that.
I wish, right?
Right, exactly. If that was, and I've asked multiple PPC companies, and I wanted to go PPC, but the thing is I had to come up with a model that served what I want, and I want the multifamily, right? And so one of the most consistent ways I've been able to get results from it was cold call.
Yeah, we've actually saw some multifamily come through our Facebook ads. But again, it's not like targeted. So it's like, if you want to go after multifamily, don't like bank on that, right? David, let me ask you this. Now that you're kind of up and running, and it makes me so happy to see you, just crushing it, and now be able to call you my buddy. somebody that we could both lean on in case anything like that ever happens again. I would love to
Yeah,
be just
man.
a phone call away, and then vice versa. If I'm struggling with something, I love that I could reach out to you. Let me
Absolutely.
ask you. Let me ask you this, David. What is your number one struggle? I mean, we kind of talked about a lot of struggles already, but now, and it doesn't even have to be like a bad struggle, but what is something that you're maybe now focused on, struggle of, getting your business to the next level?
Yeah. Yeah. In that event that we went to, right, just a few weeks ago, I actually put one of my biggest struggles in there. And
Mm.
it is I've been able to delegate and replace myself out of every single role except for one. And it's 100% ego. There's no
Dude,
other way of putting it, man. It's 100% my ego, but I have not been able to replace myself in the closer role or felt comfortable enough to replace myself in the closer role. That's been probably the thing that it is holding me back. I know that. You're like, wow, it's really good that you're at least a contractor like that with cold calling, right? Because I'm still the one that's doing the closing,
exactly,
right?
exactly.
When we do hire it out, it's in the 40s, and
Right.
and I get a little impatient. That part is still the one.
Dude, I mean, and then just kind of me just telling you a little bit of what I'm going through as well, and I just stepped out of that. So just like mid to last year, just like anybody else, we had a bunch of acquisition guys, had to let them all go. I had to step back into my business and work, and that's when we were able to close a bunch of deals again. Get it
Yep.
going.
Yep.
So, but we're seeing a nice little upswing, right? And so I'm able to kind of step back again. Thank God I had some people that wanted to be a part of this company, be a part of the culture, and they were able to work commission only at the time. And I was like, man, I'm not hiring right now, and they wanted to be a part of it. So the cool thing, I was able to train this one specific acquisition guy, and he's crushing right now.
Awesome.
So I told myself, it's literally this week. I wrote a big thing on my whiteboard at home, and I said owner mindset. And then it was kind of like a little brainstorming. I had like leverage and add value to people and some other things. And when I mean that in our company. And I
Hmm.
literally said, okay, I need to send the owner. I can't take these leads anymore. I need to start getting and put sales guys back into place. So we actually have a sales guy. It's going to be starting tomorrow. So then it's going to give us 2 sales guys, but we're going to be scaling up to 10 sales guys here. I want to see in the mid to end of this year. And I'm like you, dude. I have the same mindset. We're like, it's like, so now like when like a PPC lead comes in, like I want to be the first one to call it, but I'm like, hey, who has it? You better get it right. And then I
Yeah.
mean, I have a tendency to kind of hold back my eagerness as well to be like,
Hmm.
you better call it or I'm going to call it
Yeah.
or so. But you're absolutely right. Your leads to contracts are always going to be us, but it's like, how can we always help them succeed, right? And how can we build a great culture for them to succeed? And you're right. And out of all the people that you're going to probably hire at an acquisition people, 20% of them are going to be okay, pretty good, and those are the ones who are going to stay around. Um, but no, I'm excited to like so here's another thing too. So I had a headset, like I might like
Hmm.
perfect headset, like a $400 headset, right? Where I just close all my deals on it. It was nice. And I have some other headsets for my other guys, my acquisition guys, right? Anyways, this headset wasn't working today, and I decided, and I said, you know what, this would be another step for me to take the step back. I said, hey man, here's my headset, so I can't get on the calls, right? And I didn't say it like that, but that's just me personally.
Yeah.
Like, let me give you my headset so I can't get on the calls in that way as well. So to really start stepping back, so I could. And I told him, I was like, hey, I'm not calling these leads anymore. Your company's on your shoulder right now. You're going to see next week. We're probably going to have 1 to 2 more closers. And so now I'm just going to be focusing on that right now. So no,
Yeah.
it was my thing definitely for a while as well.
Yeah, yeah, no, I love it. I love it. The passing of the mic, huh?
That's it, man. So David, we see this recession that kind of, or correction, or whatever we want to call it, kind of
Right.
happen, hurt some people, including our own selves.
Yeah, man.
Now, obviously, you made it out. I see a big reward for a lot of people that made it through. But a lot of the people are saying that this could be the eye of the storm, right? And then we're going to see a correction. And some people say that's already over. I don't know. But what do you think? I mean, what advice would you give somebody to, if anybody was able to go? Because my question actually reads, what are your strategies to get through this recession and coming out even better on the other side? Now, I feel like we almost be, if not the other side already, right? So I don't know. I might have
Yeah.
to change that question, but what advice would you give somebody for any type of market correction?
Yeah, yeah. So I mean, it's probably the same advice from the pivoting part, right? Keep your team lean and mean,
Mm,
man. That is, like I
Amen.
said, what's going to sink your ship the quickest is if you are not disciplined with your finances. That's going to be one of them. And tracking your KPIs to be able to make the adjustments accordingly. And then at the end of the day, being able to come up with the best solutions. That's it. You know, if I'm being able to get a seller to give me seller financing, and I know how to make my numbers right, I'm going to be able to weather storms, right?
Right.
So it's making sure you're not taking too much, taking too much of a liability. I always like to call it your shield and sword, right? For the last couple of years, man, except for like the maybe 2 to 3 months of the hiccup of COVID, we've been able to be very aggressive with that sword, man. You could be very heavily offensive, and the market could make up for your mistakes. I think if you are not now thinking about your shield, your back end stuff, like I said, not tracking your stuff right, not looking at what your conversions are looking like, not knowing what your expenses look like, not knowing what you're spending day in, day out. Those are the kind of things that are going to kill you on the back end. And that is going to be the unforgivable mistakes in this, if this still keeps on correcting, which, I mean, who knows? I think it's still going to have some more leeway because I think we're seeing the reports as of right now, February 8th, 2023. You're seeing a lot of these Fortune 500 companies still doing a couple of thousand people layoffs.
Yeah.
They wouldn't be laying off if we were all good.
Exactly.
It's that simple, right? They're seeing something, more, you saw Wells Fargo completely close up their mortgage division. There's a lot of things that
They're
are still
preparing for
telling
something.
me. Exactly, man. There's a lot of stuff that's happening that I think we kind of, we hit somewhat of ground, but I don't know if I want to call it solid ground.
Yeah, no, I agree. Let me ask you this, David. What is your picture perfect business model that you want to see yourself at the end of this year?
Yeah, man. The best way is to say one that serves me and I can be in it. Tim Ferriss style, 4-hour work week stuff. That's going to be the one. I still like being able to be in it. Don't get me wrong. But if you're being able to only do it 1 to 2 hours a day, that's a really great thing to me. Because I like being able to use the wholesaling company to be the front line on deals, right? Because I'm always going to be the front in line, and then I'm going to be able to attract better lenders. I'm going to be able to attract better private investors. I'm trying to attract all better partnerships because they know Dave is the one that's finding the deals, right? So that's where I liked being able to come up with the wholesaling operation where I'm shutting down the office and I'm completely okay with it, right?
Yeah.
So I would say one that serves me and I could be, like I said, Tim Ferriss style, 4-hour work week. Don't have to call title. Don't have to blow up sellers. Don't have to threaten buyers when they're trying to renegotiate day before closing stuff. Those are the kind of things, man. To be able to have a team that I train right and they understand how to prepare for those circumstances, that's everything.
No, absolutely. David, let me ask you this. What have you read or listened to that's just inspired you recently?
Yeah, man. So I am always reading something or listening to something like every single day, right? So I'll use like a walk time or gym time to be able to go through what I'm listening to. And then, of course, I like to be able to read in the mornings. I'll tell you what I'm listening to right now on my Audible. So it's a really good sales book called Flip the Script. And it's by a guy named Oren Klaff. And he does a phenomenal job of being able to walk you through how you go to higher level sales negotiations, right? So that's always a really good one. What am I reading over there? I think it's the sales velocity book. Actually, I just bought that one. It was the guy who's the speaker, Terry. My gosh.
Terry. Yeah, I know what you're talking about.
I just bought the book. One sec. I want to see it now. Now I got to see it. Creating Sales Velocity, Matthew Ferry. It is Matt Ferry.
Very cool.
So that one's interesting. It's in that mindset of why I like also why the triple offer thing really works is being able to understand, remove yourself from the situation.
Yeah.
When you are trying to be a very high pressure salesperson, the people feel it, right? They feel that you're trying to do a hardcore close on them,
Yep.
and then suddenly they're backing away from you, right? So those both books are being able to, how are you coming across as the expert, the consultant, and making it about them, not you, right? If I
100%.
could really conclude it, that's how I really like being able to approach my sales philosophies. Not that I can't do the hardcore closes, but I found out really quickly those are the contracts that were the most weak, right? Those are the ones that had the easiest opportunities where somebody was trying to go around me and the seller was now like willing to hear them out, as opposed to now when I'm coming up with my triple offer method, these people are like, no, man, I got a good deal. I'm good with what I picked.
Exactly.
Right. So now I don't have contracts fall out too often because of those kind of situations. Maybe because something can't get cleared up at closing, but it's very rare that I get backdoored nowadays because the sellers are bought in on the process.
Very cool. Hey, David, let me ask you this. Again,
Hmm.
I just want to thank you so much for your time. Where can we find you online, social media, and how can we check out this triple digit offer program?
Yeah. So the actual
Did I say
website
triple digit
just
offer?
you
Sorry,
said
triple
triple
offer.
digit. Hey man,
Triple offer.
some of those seller financing ones are triple digits, so it's all
There we
good,
go.
man. So I just launched the website. It's just called tripleoffer.com. We just actually launched a case study of that deal. Actually, I just mentioned earlier where I made essentially what I had as a salary in one paycheck, right? So
Nice.
we just did tripleoffer.com. And then for Facebook, as you can imagine, David Pupo, there's not too many of me with that first and last name combination. So you can find me on Facebook. And then for Instagram and TikTok, I'm at Dollars with David. And then once again, if you type in David Pupo, I'm sure you'll find it pretty quickly.
Awesome. Well, hey, I'll see you next time here at the Real Estate Block Podcast.
Aaron, man. Hey, pleasure, man. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And just to give you guys a heads up, I am going to give Aaron free documentation. So when you subscribe, reach out to Aaron. I'm going to give him I'm going to go with my most common objections that we train our team on, right? So you're understanding how to play chess, not checkers. You want to be, when they give you an objective, you know how to overcome it, right? So being able to get that going, man, I'd love to be able to see how I can help your audience with that.
You hear that? Reach out to myself or David to get this objection handling sheet. Thanks again, David.
Absolutely, man.